Hey there, welcome to Board Game Barrister, our local game shop in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'm Andy, and I'm here with Ian, Elizabeth, and Gordon, and today we're talking Penny Black, a cool stamp collecting game from Buffalo Games where we're all looking for that elusive Penny Black. Let's get into it. Welcome to Penny Black, a fantastic stamp collecting game for 2 to 4 players. To start out, everybody at the table gets one of these extremely delightful stamp albums that they're going to be completing their sets of stamps in. And we're all going to choose some goals for what we want to accomplish in that album using these collector cards. So what these are showing you is goals for what you'll accomplish on each individual page of your album. So what we're going to do now is choose one of each color for each different page. So here it is. Our left page is looking for sets of pink stamps, each set of 2 pink 4-cent stamps, which are the birds. Scores 3 points, and it's hip to be square, which means we can only play square tiles onto this side, no rectangles. The last part of setup is to put a tiny star token on each of these star symbols in our stamp album, and then we're ready to get started. So in the course of this game, we're going to play 10 rounds, as you can see on our little round tracker board here, which has an actual rubber stamp on it. So cute. And we're going to start each round of the game by setting up each of these pages with 3 stamps. We've got our mailbag full of stamps here, and we're just going to start grabbing 3 for each page at random. Alright, there's our stamps for round number 1. You can see on this page here, one of each different size of stamp we're going to see. We have to keep the orientation the same for these stamps, meaning they always have to have the image facing the correct direction face up. So I've got a wide stamp here, a tall stamp here, and just a square one right here. And on each player's turn, they're just gonna pick a page and add all of the stamps on that page into their album. So maybe we'll start with this page here. It starts us off onto our eclectic collector, which wants us to have a bunch of different colors. So we're gonna place all 3 of these stamps into our album now. And the rule for placing a stamp is that they either have to fully cover one of these shaded areas on our album, or they have to touch a stamp that's already in your album somewhere. So our first stamp definitely has to cover a shaded area. We want only squares on this side, so why don't we just start it off with a square over here? Since we only want squares over here and neither of these are squares, maybe I'm going to start up in the corner on this side, and then I'll place this one alongside it, touching it. Now you can see I'm covering a star space now. When you cover a star space, you earn that star token and you'll put it off in front of yourself to represent that you've earned that star. You can spend that later for bonus abilities. And that's the end of your turn. In fact, there's so little interaction with the rest of the board and the other players once you've selected which stamps you're going to be taking on your turn, that the next player can start their turn as soon as you pick your stamps up, which is really nice because it means everybody can think about the precise placement they want for their stamps while everybody else continues to go around the circle, and it makes the flow of the game go really nicely. And occasionally, as you're replenishing these pages, you're going to come across those coveted Penny Black stamps. Whenever you find one of these Penny Blacks, they are going to take up an entire page all on their own. Last thing we're going to do before we talk about scoring is take a look at what you can do with those star tokens as you collect them. On your turn, you can use special star bonuses that will let you do extra things in addition to choosing stamps. There are 4 different actions and they cost different numbers of stars. So you can spend 1 star token to swap any 2 stamps that are currently on the pages in the middle. So you could spend 1 star to swap these 2 stamps. That would be that action done. You can also spend 1 star to unstick a stamp from your album. Normally you're not allowed to move a stamp in your album once you've locked it in at the end of your turn, but for 1 star you can unstick something that you stuck on earlier and move it anywhere else you want to. Now for 2 stars, you can randomly draw a stamp out of the mailbag and immediately place it somewhere in your album. This feels like a last minute end of the game Hail Mary to me, but there may be cases where it comes in super handy. And last, you can spend 3 stars to just buy yourself a Penny Black. You're gonna go find one out of the bag and add it anywhere you want to in your album. Alright, we've talked enough about it. Let's go to scoring so that we can talk about how these Penny Blacks work. Alright, at the end of round 10, your album might look a little bit more like this. You can see we've filled up these pages pretty well. To get your final score, all you have to do is score up for each of your 4 goals and then your Penny Blacks. For each Penny Black you have in your album, and you can have more than one, you're going to look at all the tiles that are touching that Penny Black on at least one side, and find whichever color you have the most of touching that Penny Black. In this case, I have the most of green with 4 tiles, and what I'm going to do is take that number, so 4 tiles, and double it. That's how many points I get. So I get 8 points for this Penny Black, thanks to these green tiles surrounding it. And that's the entire game. We're going to count up our scores and see who had the highest. They're the winner this time, and if there's a tie, it's the player with the most star tokens remaining at the end who wins it all.
To start out, the game has a really great theme, and all of the game elements fit that theme very well. We're collecting stamps. We've got a little stamp books here. All the little, score keeping elements are just super duper cute to do with the theme, and it looks great, and the pieces they feel great too.
Yeah, and the gameplay itself, when we first started putting stamps in booklets, I was like, This is so straightforward, like really pleasantly so. You just choose which of the middle central pages you want to grab the stamps off of. You grab all 3 stamps off of that, and then you put them on your pages. So our first 2 rounds actually went by very quickly. It was in the later rounds when we started to have to fit things in more carefully that we all started to slow down a little, and it felt a little bit more restrictive just by the nature of us wanting to do well, not by the actual nature of the rules or the mechanics making it harder to put stuff in places.
Yeah, this game, it feels really good to be placing your pieces down because you feel like you're getting closer and closer to completing your goals. You feel like you're making progress. You're getting these great little income rewards as you finish covering the star squares. You start to get these other income where you can now do cool things like swap pieces or unstick things, and it just felt like absolutely balanced and perfect.
Yeah, for an indirectly competitive game where it's about doing your thing better than the rest of the players at the table, I found it really enjoyable. I thought it was, usually I'm not a huge fan of these puzzle solving kind of games, but this one was really, really fun and felt very satisfying to place and move towards your goals. And then the thing that always hangs me up is when I'm stuck and forced to make decisions. I hate my autonomy being taken away in a game. This one gives you these little income things that Elizabeth mentioned that let you prevent those things from happening, or at least curb them by letting you swap a tile around or move one of your stuck stamps to a different spot, which helped me at the end of my game, etc. So then I didn't feel like I was forced into making bad decisions even when it wasn't the most opportune of things that are out there for me, and nobody messed with my stuff. So if you like that kind of gameplay where people can't mess with what you're doing on your board, it felt really great for that.
The flow of tension throughout the game was really great. Early in the game, you think, I've got all the time in the world, how am I going to fill these up? And then as you get to turns 6, 7, and 8, like, I only have this many turns left, how am I going to fill this? And then you come to your final turn, you're like, okay, you know what, I just got my last little bit and finishing touches and we're done. It really felt well constructed and ended at the right time.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that we played kind of an introductory version of the game today. Normally when you play, you'd set up 2 goals on each side of your board. So you've got your 2 pages, you'd put a goal, a black goal and a white goal on each side and be trying to score points off of both of those goals. So you're working toward 4 different scoring goals simultaneously. That felt like a lot to keep in our brains, having just learned the rules of this. So we started with 1 white and 1 black on opposite sides and worked toward those. And it meant that we were able to be quite successful in accomplishing those goals. It felt great to learn the game approaching those goals without having too much crunchy, thinky stuff in it. So if you feel like you would be easily overwhelmed by too complex a puzzle and pieces starting to fall apart on you and not working, this was actually really pleasant, and I'd suggest doing it for your first game. All right, I think that does it for Penny Black. Thank you so much for joining us. We had a great time with this one. We hope you had fun watching it. The game looks fun to you as well. As always, really appreciate it if you hit that like button, leave a comment if you got a comment, and hit that subscribe button if you want to see us play a new game every week. We post them every Tuesday. Thanks so much for this week. We will see you next time.